Hi everyone. I'd like to take just a few minutes and talk about social and emotional learning and why I think it's so important for the literacy classroom. Obviously, it's a big buzzword and everyone's talking about social and emotional learning and how important it is, but we rarely ever stop and ask ourselves, one, what does it mean? And two, how do we even actualize it in our classrooms? So I like to think of it, beyond all the buzzwords and all of the research and terminology in a very specific kind of three-part way. The first part of social and emotional learning is how a child feels about him or herself. The way I think about it is, do I feel like I belong, or do I feel like I fit into the environment? And the second way is, do my ideas matter? Is anyone listening to me? Right? And so much of whether a kid succeeds in school or not, or they invest in the work or they don't, doesn't matter so much. Do they think that they're good at it? It's much more about their identity. Do I think that it matters, right? Do people even care that I'm here? So the second part of that is others, right? So we have the self. Do I fit in? Do I think that my ideas matter? So the next stage of that, if I do feel like I belong, how do I learn to get on with others? How do I learn to take others' perspectives? How do I learn to care about others? How am I even aware of whether I'm exhibiting kindness toward them or being unkind, right? So we start with the self and move to the others. And then the last part, the most important part we care about, but it's really built on that foundation, is how can I develop a social perspective? How can I think about the world? How can I think about the world's needs? How can I think about myself as someone who can play a role, in making the world a better place? But not necessarily like when I graduate or an adult, but in the third grade or in middle school. How can I do that? So the first part, how do we help kids feel like they belong? How do we give them choice, right? How do we ask them for their opinions? How do we help students to learn to kind of call each other by name? So a lot of the different activity settings that we, that we try to, have present in the curriculum deal with really encouraging students to listen to and work with one another well, but also creating opportunities for students to be able to present their ideas and to be experts, right? And so then you're not just telling them, you belong, you're actually showing them. But the collaborative learning, I think, is the trickiest part of that, because a lot of times the classroom's very individualistic. So you've got 30 kids in the classroom, you've got 30 heads down, working or meeting, that sort of thing. When you actually have to depend on one another, and then you really can understand, maybe what I'm saying is offensive, or maybe we're not listening to this person's point of view. So we create these activity settings where we actually are not just telling students they need to do it, but you're giving them a chance to embrace it. We call it like they're actually trying on a new identity. And the last part, which I've been really excited about in my career, is like, how can we have the work we do in the classroom not just be for the audience and the teacher, but students can be world changers, right? Whether it's I wrote something and I got to share it with the parents and the community, or we created a project and it actually changed how people were, dealing with one another, or it helped the environment, all sorts of things. Because what that does is it tells a child that you too can make a difference in the world, right? So there's all sorts of applications, and we really need to think about it in each of these ways. So just to recap quickly, all students need to feel like they play a role in the class, need to feel like they have big ideas and we care about those ideas. We have to help students develop the skill set to be able to listen to one another and speak to one another and work together. But we also have to have our classroom activities move beyond the world of those four walls, right? And that students actually step out into that larger world and they get to share the ideas and the brilliance that they have.